Heya and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. Today I would like to show you my Mod 18 tanking build for my Paladin. Alright, so to begin with, the race for a tank or a healer on a Paladin doesn't particularly matter. I would advise taking Charisma as a tank, and then it's up to your choice out of these top for ability scores. I would choose Dexterity generally. So we'll move straight on to powers. So this is my setup for when I'm against a boss or a single target. So first up, for your at-will powers, you will mainly be using Oath Strike. However, if aggro is not an issue and you can easily maintain it, perhaps switch to Shielding Strike for more stamina regeneration. Radiant Slam will just help you to move up to the boss quicker. So then on to our encounter powers. Use your Smite in combination with Divine Challenger to make sure it's a hard taunt so you can aggro the boss fairly easily. Then I would run with Vow of Enmity if you're having aggro issues. However, you can switch out Vow for Absolution if you're fine with the aggro. And then I would choose Binding Oath as the third encounter power. However, if you are struggling again with aggro, either switch Binding Oath out for Relentless Avenger or to Sacred Weapon. Then for my daily, I would always begin the fight with Divine Judgment to make sure you have that pool of damage to multiply with your increased threat powers. And then from then on during the fight, if I'm fine with aggro and I don't need to continue using Divine Judgment, I would then generally switch to Heroism or either your Shield of Faith or your Divine Protector, depending on your fourth pair of feats here, which one you chose. And then jumping straight onto class features, I would take Aura of Valor, and you absolutely need that Divine Challenger for making Smite a hard taunt. Okay, then the feats to go with would be your Sacred Shield, just to give, if you want to use Sacred Weapon, increases its threat and restores some stamina. The second pair of feats don't matter for single target. For the third set of feats, take Justicar's Bulwark. Fourth set of feats, it's up to you. I generally like to run Sheltering Light to keep the party alive, but easier. However, if you're struggling yourself, I would use Shield of the Gods, so you can use the Divine Protector daily to protect yourself from all damage for 6 seconds. However, it does not have effect on quite a few boss mechanics, such as AoEs. And then our final set of feats definitely take Unyielding Champion to decrease the divinity drain that our tab power has. Okay, so now you switch out to AoE. First up, just keep your at-wills the same. I would switch Templar's Wrath out for Smite. I would keep Vow of Enmity since it's an AoE hard taunt. And then I would switch to Burning Light instead of our Binding Oath. However, if aggro is not an issue, I would switch Relentless Avenger out for Vow of Enmity, just for mobility sakes. Alright, dailies again then, I would switch to Radiant Charge instead of Divine Judgment, and then I would switch to either Shield of the Faith or Divine Protector, depending on either or of the feat you chose here. Now for class features, I would take Composure for the extra divinity gain, and I would take Aura of Vengeance just for that kind of AoE damage on all the mobs that are hitting you and your party members. And then the feats just remain the same. However, you will have increased the effect of Burning Light with this feat here. It gives you the ability to block constantly, and when your shield is depleted to 0, you'll do 600 magnitude instead of just a 300 while your shield is full. Okay, so that's powers. Now let's move on to what you've all been waiting for, the updated gear for Mod 18. Now, for our headpiece, when you're running up against lots of mobs and stuff, I would probably just use the Lion Guard's helmet for that extra 5k power when your stamina is above 75%. Generally, you're safe enough not to block too much when you're against loads of mobs, and you should be fine. However, I would switch it out to the duelist or the fancy duelist mask when you're up against a boss, just to make sure you always have that extra 5000 power. However, if the boss, let's say last boss in Infernal Citadel, starts spawning these critters, you won't gain the bonus from the duelist mask anymore. And in that case, you're generally better off just running the Lion Guard's helmet. I prefer to just run it all the time rather than switching. Now for our armor piece or our chest plate, again I would take the Lion Guard armor. It basically will give you a little bit of a heal every now and again. Set bonus is nothing special. However, if you like to be particular and gain some more damage resistance instead of HP and stats, take Barkhide. Barkhide is very nice. A little bonus to damage resistance when you're getting hit pretty hard. However, it is relatively hard to grind for. It's an RNG drop rate. Up to you. And then for our arm slots, I would generally go with the spiked defender vambraces. However, you could switch out to the shielded defender vambraces. One thing to keep in mind with the spiked and the shield defender vambraces is that if you block with your shield, it does not count as being struck. So you can see here, if I strike my enemy 5 times, I gain 5 stacks of damage resistance, giving me 5% extra damage resistance. And if I keep blocking all the enemy's attacks, I'll maintain this 5% damage resistance. And then if I let them hit me, I can turn that 5% into 5% more damage. Now with the shielded ones, you're going to have to rely on your enemy hitting you 5 times before you hit them to gain 5% damage resistance. Alright, so then we move on to our feat slot. I would go with the Infernal Forged Boots. Basically it gives you more power the longer you are in combat, up to 4800. However, if your fights are rather short, you could switch that out to the Mighty Storm Slippers, gaining you 5k power. And let's say you don't want to use your daily, or you don't have much use of using it, you could just not cast your daily and gain 5k more power. Or you could switch out to the Lion Guard's boots when you're in a mob environment. So that's our armor. The rings, I switched out to 2 offense rings because I needed the stats to cap them for the Infernal Citadel. You need like 85k armor, pen, defense, whatever. And to gain those stats, I needed to equip 2 offense rings. And the ones I'm using is bonus to encounter powers. It will greatly buff our smite, giving me more damage. And the Tanner's Hardened Leather Ring, which is very beneficial for a tank. Basically, when you start combat against a boss and you use your Divine Judgment, you'll basically, you'll hit the boss for 50% of your HP. So I'll do another 400k damage. And that way I'm increasing my threat and being able to keep the aggro off the DPS a lot easier. Okay, so for our weapons, you just want the Lionheart set. That's the best out there. If you don't have the Lionheart set, you definitely want the Burnish set. The Burnish set can easily be achievable with Seals of the Deep. Alright, so then for our neck, waist, and artifact set, I would go still with the the Reflective Armament set, basically Erratic Drift Globe set. Basically, you create a rune on the ground every time you cast a daily. However, this set is like, if you have another set and you can't be bothered upgrading this, it's completely fine. This set is barely going to give you any benefit at all, since you only cast a daily every minute or so, and this only lasts 6 seconds, so I wouldn't worry about it. It's just my personal preference at the moment, anyway. So for our shirt and trousers, just go with the newest out there, the ones you get for the Seals of the Fallen, the Infernal Forged shirt and trousers. And just pick the ones you need the stats on. For our artifacts and our primary artifacts, for the secondary artifacts, ideally you want the books. If you don't have the books, just take ones that have HP. So ideally you'd have your Erratic Drift Globe, then you would have your Halaster's Blast Scepter in one of them, and then you would have an alternative artifact which just gives a bonus to HP and power, let's say like the Paladin Sigil, where is it? Here. Bonus HP and power or thirst. And for your primary artifact, ideally you want something that would help your DPS out, like the Wyvern Venom Coated Knives. However, if you're struggling to stay alive, let's say healer needs a helping hand, you could run Sigil of the Paladin. Or if the boss just seems to be hitting you too hard for you to maintain the big hits and you're afraid of getting one shot, use the Forged Hammer of Gaunt to ensure you don't get one shot by the boss's main big hit. Alright, so now we move on to enchantments. For our main enchantments, for offense, you want Radiance, and for defense, you want Radiance. Basically giving you power in offense and HP in defense. However, if you need other stats to cap, let's say you need Armor Pen and Crit, you could use what I'm using there, a Savage Enchantment in my offense there, just to help cap those stats. You're definitely better off capping stats rather than just stacking power, since they will give more damage than just power, since power diminishes. Alright, so then in our utilities, you definitely want tacticals. We have a ton of HP. You can see here I'm over 100k, and you're just better off helping the healer out using tacticals in our utilities. For our weapon enchantment, well, personally, I think Vorpal is the go-to on a Paladin for your main weapon enchantment, since it will help heals when you're on your healer build, and it'll help you deal more damage on your tank build. There are other alternatives out there, like the Balthorn for more damage, like the Lightning enchantment for more AoE damage. Okay, so for our... oh, yeah, not to forget, our armor enchantment. I would go with Elven Battle. However, if you have an alternative one like Bark Shield already or Shadowclad, just use that. It's not gonna significantly increase your survivability or how you perform in combat. I just prefer the stamina regen. And then for our weapon modifications on our main hand, I would just do increased damage done by either Shielding Strike or Oath Strike. You could have two hammers here, one that gives to Shielding Strike and the other to Oath Strike. And then on your offhand weapon modification, I like to have the extra HP and the crit severity. HP for just more HP and crit severity for more damage. Alternatively, you could take power, except power diminishes, so it's only going to give you about 1% more damage. So crits and crit severity, I prefer over just 5% stamina regen, just for more damage. Okay, so I believe that's everything here. Your ratings, just make sure you cap, ideally, these 6 stats here. So that'll be your Armor Pen, Defense, Crit Strike, Crit Avoidance, Accuracy, and Deflect. Make sure you cap all 6 of those for the zone you are in. I made a video on it just recently, what kind of stats you need for what content you're running. And power, you ideally want it like over 100k. So as a tank, you ideally want to cap those 6 ratings and then stack power after that. Don't worry about combat advantage and don't worry at all about awareness. HP, you ideally want to just stack as much as you can from all the ways you can actually get HP, ideally. You might have to compensate for getting offense stats like I did here with these 2 offense rings, basically reducing my HP by 40,000 from the radiance I could have in there as defense, if there were defense rings. or defense slot rings. Okay, so that's all the gear, I believe, and all the ratings. Let's move on to our companions as the next kind of priority thing. So, companion, just run an augment companion. Augment companion will basically give you increased amount of stats, and it just gives you its stats in combat and doesn't do anything itself. All of them have an enhancement bonus where they give 1000 additional of 3 different stats. Ideally you want one which gives a bonus to power. The other stats don't particularly matter, but you might find one that you need a missing stat of. For me, I went with the Star of Simra. So, runestones, you ideally want them on rank 15. However, rank 13 bondings will do just fine to cap most of your stats. Then for our companion equipment. Companion equipment is rather tricky for a tank. You'll want to be balancing those offense and defense stats, so you will have to find the combination that works for you. For me, these 3 pieces of companion gear combined with my rings and all my other gear contribute to capping the stats that I need. So for what I have is the Ivy Grown Sword Knot. I'm sure there's a epic version out there. I have not managed to achieve it myself, something I'm working on. I have the Torched Belt of the Companion, and I have the Imperial Moonstone Ring of the Companion. Alright, so then our passive slotted companions, that's these 5 slots here. You just want HP. So in offense, you can find any companion that will give you 16,000 more HP on Legendary. There are multiples out there, such as what I have here, Rimfire Golem. There's also the Star of Simra, and there's also the Crystal Golem. Then for our 3 defense stats, I believe these are the only 3 that will give you 16,000 HP. So that's the Moonshade Druid, the Iron Golem, and the Harper Bard. Now, alternative companions you could use are ones that give bonus to HP and incoming healing. I currently do not have any, but they are a viable option if you like to help your healer out a bit more. And then, of course, in our utility, you want the Energon for an extra 32,000 HP. Then in our little other slot here, what is it? Our companion enhancement slot, all the different options here. I like to go with Potent Precision. However, you could switch that out for Redemption for a small heal over time, just in case you needed that. So I will just show you the companions real quick here. So we have our Rimfire Golem here. We have our Moonshade Druid just here. Then we have our Iron Golem just here. We have our, which is it here, our Harper Bard here. And we have our Energon just here. Just in case you wanted to get the spellings of them. Okay, so now let's move on to our mounts. So in our mounts, on this page here, you will have your legendary mount combat power. I wouldn't worry about it in particular. The ones that you could get that would be beneficial for a tank are the Armored Griffin's Screech or the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And there are a few others out there like the Bullet. But I wouldn't worry about it at all. It's a big AD sink. And don't worry about it until you've got tons of AD to spend. Then for this slot here, you'll want Stalwart. Stalwart will give you that extra HP. You need a legendary mount to get the 50,000. You can get an alternative mounts, just like the Triceratops, which will give you 25,000. If you haven't got tons of AD to spend, just take the 25,000 HP. It should do you just fine. Alright, then moving on to our other mounts and our insignia bonuses. So, for our actual insignias themselves, you will want Prosperity and Fortitude to give you that bonus HP. Then, for our actual insignia bonuses themselves, you will want at least two Gladiator Guile, to give you 15% more movement. First one gives you 10% more movement. Second one gives you an extra 5%. A third one, if you so wished, would give you an extra 2.5%. Has diminishing returns and stacks only up to 3. And then what I like to use is our Survivor's Blessing here, giving you heal over time when you deflect. Oppressor's Reprieve, giving you heal over time you're stunned, knocked, or immobilized. And Barbarian's Revelry, giving you a nice heal whenever you crit strike. Now let's move on to boons. So on our boon page here, boons are not something I would worry about. I would not suggest you buy out campaigns. It is really not worth it. Boon points will give you barely any stats or necessary resources. There's something you would work on in the background, just when you have free time and you just grind your campaigns and just gather the points up slowly. But when you do have the points to spend, just stack as a tank all the ones in HP and ideally power. But if you are missing an offense stat here or there, maybe put some in the stat which you need. But definitely take Marathon Runner as you go up, and also take Simple Support for Companion Influence. Marathon Runner will give you 12.5% more movement speed, and Simple Support will give you that extra 10% Companion Influence. Then on tier 5, if you manage to get there, I would take the incoming healing. However, if you feel you can't be bothered using it, you could switch to crit severity instead. We're a tank, we're versatile. There's no right way to do things. You could take any of these and you could work with it. Just maybe not the outgoing healing one. And then for a master boon, take Focused Retaliation. It can hit fairly big. Managed to get it hit up to 1.2 million in Tower of the Mad Mage. Pretty nice hit. So yeah, it definitely works. Then for guild boons, definitely join a guild and gain the boons. You ideally want to use power. However, if you're missing any offense stats, let's say like armor pen, you could use that instead. In defense, ideally you want to use HP. However, if you're missing a defense stat significantly, you could switch to that. Utility doesn't particularly matter, but ideally use a 5 sickness boon if you're in hard content where you might die a few times. It will definitely reduce basically the resurrection sickness which you gain by, I believe, 50%. Basically, instead of losing like 20,000 HP, you would only lose 10,000 HP every time you died. And the rest don't matter. Last thing to mention would be consumables. I would use the Wildstorm Elixir and the Superior Flask of Potency for that extra 17.5% crit severity, giving you more damage, and definitely use Caprice. Gives a nice bonus to HP. So yeah, I believe that is everything for my mod 18 tank build. Hopefully it has been clear and informative. Any comments, leave them below. Any questions, I should answer you back within a day or two. Hopefully enjoyed, and goodbye for now.